How's it going, everyone? It's Harvey from Weather Storm 5000, and in this video, of course, we're going to focus on the significant Midwest and Northeast snowstorm, which could dump over a foot of snow in many areas of the Midwest, such as Chicago, Milwaukee, and other major cities around the Midwest, and potentially the Northeast as well. But before I begin, make sure to subscribe if you want to see more weather-related content. So let's begin by taking a look at the GFS model, and now we have a lot more certainty with the forecast compared to the days prior, where now the GFS model is now more in line with what the European model has been stating for several days. And now it's pretty likely at this point the Midwest will experience a significant and potentially historic blizzard where we could see up to 2 feet of snow in some areas. So pretty much how this storm will develop is that, of course, we're going to see this Clipper system coming off of the Pacific Northwest eventually move eastward, and behind the low pressure system, we're going to see a high amount of cold air that's going to create a very unstable environment right around the midsection of the country, and we're going to see a strong southerly flow as a result of this pressure gradient between this low and this ridge located right around the northeastern portion of the United States. And if we were to continue to move forward, we see that strong southerly flow absorb a lot of that water vapor that's located right around the Gulf of Mexico and create just a very significant blizzard where we're going to see winds occasionally gusts up to hurricane force in some areas, because we see the millibar pressure drop quite a bit, where we see the pressure drop down to 978 millibars, and the pressure goes even lower beyond that point, where we see the storm's pressure drop to the 960s, which is equivalent to a major hurricane. So that's something you're going to need to pay very close attention to. The winds and the heavy snowfall will be a major threat right around the Midwest and portions of the Northeast as well. Now, there's still uncertainty regarding who will receive the heaviest snowfall, because of course the storm is still approximately 3 days out. There's still some time for variations to occur between the two computer models. However, the fact that the GFS model and the European model are in such good agreement with each other at this time, it seems like any variations we'll see in the forecast will be minuscule at best, as I don't expect any major shift in the forecast where maybe along the Interstate 95 corridor we could see snow. I find that to be very unlikely at this time, and it's unlikely that the Midwest will miss out on a significant snowstorm based on the current forecast we're seeing from the computer model. So as a result, you need to prepare throughout the Midwest as if a very significant blizzard is on your way, and this could be historic in some areas, and I definitely wouldn't be surprised if we see multiple records broken throughout the Midwest. Let's take a look at the snowfall forecast GFS model is predicting. So we do see that a large area of 6 to 12 inches of snow should be expected right around Wisconsin. Actually, let me go into this snowfall forecast because it gives a better ratio of how much snow you should actually expect based on how much precipitable rainfall equates to let's say a given amount of snowfall accumulation. And we do see that that the GFS model is forecasting a large area of the Midwest to experience over 12 inches of snow. This extends to Minnesota, Iowa, Wisconsin, Chicago, Indiana, and Michigan should all expect over a foot of snow. This will be extremely significant. However, the European model is showing some differences with the forecast, where the European model isn't as lenient as bringing as heavy of a snowfall threat, where we do see the European model still bring heavy snowfall. We don't see an area as extensive when it comes to over a foot of snow as what the GFS model is stating, as the GFS model is a bit more strong with the forecast when forecasting the amount of snowfall. It has been over the past several runs, but now we're seeing the GFS model follow more and more in line with what the European model has been saying over the past several days. So I'd say the European model scenario when it comes to snowfall accumulation would be the more correct one, based on the fact that it's already been correct over the past several days. So it seems like it's handling the forecast of this snowstorm a little bit better than the GFS model, but we can't disregard the GFS model either, because the GFS model is a very reliable model at the same time. But it seems like the European model might be the more correct model in this scenario, but there's still a significant blizzard for many Americans in the Midwest and Northeast northeast, where we of course see a large area of 6 to 12 inches and close to a foot of snow right around Chicago. And the last time Chicago experienced over a foot of snow was way back in 2015. So nearly 8 years ago, it's been since you guys experienced over a foot of snow in Chicago. So this will be one of the worst snowstorms many people have experienced in a very long time in Chicago, and you need to make sure you take the necessary precautions as the snowstorm approaches your guys' area. And of course, I know a lot of Americans are going to be making a lot of travel plans for the Christmas weekend, but you need to watch out for this major blizzard, especially since strong winds will be present as well. So that could certainly delay flights, even if you're not necessarily going to be involved with this blizzard. And we see that for the East Coast, seems like no snow is expected, which makes sense. We're going to see a very strong southerly flow, which will prevent the cool air from moving far south enough for the precipitation to fall in the form of snowfall. And it seems unlikely that's going to change, as there's just this very big ridge that's going to be located right around the western Atlantic. That's pretty much going to force this low pressure system up northward very quickly, and that will force the southerly winds on the eastern side of this low pressure system to move further northward, to bring a lot of that warm and moist air further northward into the northeast. So the chance of snowfall is certainly light. Maybe you experience some flurries right around Philadelphia and New York City, but on the backside of the storm, as the storm moves northward into Canada. But other than that, you shouldn't expect much snowfall at all, which could be disappointing for some who want a white Christmas, but it seems unlikely at this point. But for the Midwest, you certainly should expect a white Christmas and potentially major conditions associated with this low pressure system. Power outages are likely thanks to the strong winds, and of course, road conditions will be treacherous at times, and snow bands will be heavy at times, as well of how much instability there will be with this low associated with this jet stream dip, where we're going to see a little bit of a negative tilt, which represents a highly unstable environment, and the winds will be very strong. We could see wind gusts over 80 miles per hour in some areas, so definitely keep that in mind throughout the Midwest and the Northeast. That heavy snowfall and very strong winds and blizzard conditions are likely. We already have winter storm watches issued for portions of the Midwest, as well, right around Nebraska and even into areas a little bit further eastward. And I would certainly not be surprised if we continue to see those advisories shift further and further eastward once we get closer and closer to the time frame when the storm impacts the Midwest and the Northeast. And we could also see an ice threat right around the Appalachian mountain ranges, where we could see a warm air intrusion in the mid levels that would cause an ice threat right around West Virginia and Pennsylvania. So that's something you need to keep in mind. Even if you don't experience snowfall, the threat of freezing rain does exist, and we're going to see, of course, very cold temperatures on the backside of this low pressure system. So that's certainly something to keep in mind. Let's take a look back at the snowfall forecast over a 24-hour period to see how fast the rate will be. We see that you could experience 6 to 12 inches in only 24 hours right around the Chicago area. So that snow will fall at a very fast clip, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see snowfall rates right around 1 to 2 inches per hour right around Chicago area. So definitely be aware of that. Now taking a look at the wind forecast over the next several days. So here's this trough. It's going to be located right around the Pacific Northwest, but if we were to move to the 22nd, the trough eventually moves into the Midwest, where we see the winds sustained right around 20 to 30 miles per hour. Of course, there's a high level of cold air behind this trough, and it's going to be forced to, and this dense air is going to want to move into the air mass where it's a lot lighter and a lot less dense, which is the warmer air mass located further eastward as a result of these southerly winds moving over the Gulf of Mexico. So we're going to see that dense air attempt to move into that warm, lightly dense air, and as it does so, that creates wind, and that wind will be quite intense and will only get stronger as the storm continues to move further eastward, and we continue to see a higher level of instability and lift in the atmosphere further eastward, where we begin to see the winds approach the east coast by the Friday, December 23rd timeframe, and it should continue all day. As I wouldn't be surprised that in some localized areas you could experience potentially coastal flooding, where 10 a.m. we could see sustained winds right around 40 miles per hour, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see hurricane force gusts along the east coast, where we could see wind gusts up to 80. And look at the Great Lakes. The low pressure system is expected to be located right to the east of Lake Michigan, which could bring those wind gusts up, and of course would bring blizzard conditions to the Chicago area. So you need to pay very close attention to that, and the winds will only continue all day for December 23rd and even into the 24th, when we really see that cold air move into the eastern half of the United States. Now, taking a look at the rainfall forecast, because that's another threat along the East Coast you need to be aware about. Even though you might not necessarily experience snow, the heavy rain threat does exist and potentially flash flooding. As this storm is very powerful, it's going to absorb a lot of water vapor, so we're going to see a heavy rain threat along the East Coast, extending from New Jersey throughout New England. You guys could experience 2 to 3 to potentially 3 to 5 inches of rain in localized areas. So be aware of that flash flood threat risk, especially if you live near a flood zone. Now, here's my snowfall forecast when it comes to this extreme Christmas blizzard. So pretty much majority of the Midwest should experience a white Christmas this year. I'd say that Chicago could experience up to a foot of snow, and I wouldn't be surprised if I change my forecast and bring Chicago into the 12 to 24 inch category when it comes to snowfall, and other major cities such as Indianapolis, Cleveland, Detroit, all expected to receive over 6 inches of snow and potentially up to a foot of snow. And Des Moines could also get involved with heavy snow. Minneapolis, I'm expecting 6 to 12 inches. And even into portions of the interior Northeast, there's a large area you could expect 3 to 6 inches of snow. And of course, a little bit more than that if you're right along the Great Lakes, where of course lake effect snow is likely associated with this storm on the backside as a result of the strong winds and very cool temperatures. That's going to create a very unstable environment right over the Great Lakes. And moving further southward, you could expect 1 to 3 inches, as it seems like the southeast snowfall threat has subsided a bit, but northern Arkansas and Tennessee could maybe get some snowfall accumulation as well. So keep that in mind as you approach the Christmas time frame. And of course, 80 mile per hour wind gusts are possible thanks to how low the millibar pressure will be with this storm. So make sure to be aware of this major Christmas blizzard, especially if you're traveling this Christmas, because it's expected to could be dangerous and you could lose power in certain areas. But anyways, guys, I thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe if you want to see more weather content. I hope you guys have a great day.